Hello, and welcome to another episode of the SmartBear Founder Series. If this is the first time you're joining us on this show, what this is a chance to learn from the founders of some of the amazing products that we have here at SmartBear, who are here still contributing to the design of those products and to SmartBear as a whole. Today, we are talking with the founders, creators of LoadNinja. It's a little bit different episode this time, and that LoadNinja was always a product and not a company, so you'll get a little bit different take from some of our earlier episodes. But we recommend you check out the whole series, as there's been a lot of really great points that have come up for those who may be looking to found their own company or launch their own product, or are just interested in hearing how products like these come to light and reach the level of success that they have. Today, we are joined with Anand Sundaram and Abraham Novato. How are you both today?
Very well, Noel. Thanks so much.
Great.
Good, Noel. Thanks for asking.
Sure. So just to kind of introduce yourselves, if you want to just, introduce who you are and what your current titles here are at SmartBear, and then we'll get into talking a little bit about LoadNinja.
Abraham, do you want to go first?
Yeah, why not? So Abraham Nevado, it's my name. My current title, it's Chief Architect and Vice President, and I work in technology staff here at SmartBear.
All right, great. My name is Anand Sundaram. I'm an SVP of product, and I'm also responsible for the functional test BU at SmartBear.
Great. So can you share a little bit about what LoadNinja is for those who may not know? What it enables or what problems it solves, and who its primary users are.
Yeah, let me take a crack at that. LoadNinja is intended to be a performance testing or load testing platform, primarily aimed at folks who are interested in performance testing web applications and sometimes APIs. What happens is, as people are building more and more web applications, one of the challenges that they face is, or the concern they have is, whether or not it's going to be able to support hundreds of thousands or the number of concurrent users that it's intended to support. And they want to find out that it can before they go live.
I would like to add on here, one of the particularities of LoadNinja, or one of my favorite particularities, it's how immediate you can get results. With other load testing tools, the approach they follow, it's you need to have a really deep technical knowledge about the application that you are testing. With LoadNinja, what we try is to break that kind of barrier and to make the web load testing space available and quick and immediate for everybody, despite the level of technical knowledge they have. That's like the twist we provide on the product.
Correct. And we're trying to democratize load testing so you don't have to be an expert.
Great. So what were each of you primarily working on before LoadNinja? This is to kind of lead into how the idea kind of came to mind, but what were you focused on? Was it to come up with a tool, or another great idea here, or what was it that was taking up the majority of your time before LoadNinja?
Abraham, do you want to go?
Yeah. So I was working in different kind of technical stuff at SmartBear with different products, helping other existing products into the company. That's basically.
Yeah, and then the way LoadNinja was primarily conceived, I was responsible for another load testing product, which was the predecessor for LoadNinja. And it was the typical approach that performance testing tools have when it comes to solving web application load testing. And we realized that it was not really doing a good job. It was very hard to use. There were a lot of challenges. So I spent almost a year and a half prior to the conception of LoadNinja looking for an alternative. We were looking at the marketplace to see if we could acquire a product. We're trying to see if we could just take the old product or redo it. And finally, we said the best way to do it is to take some of the learnings we have from some other product approaches we have. In this case, it was AlertSite. And we said, what if we were to make it as simple as just interacting with your web application, and then you can just start to load test it. And all you need to know is to have knowledge of your application. And so, that was the germ of the idea, or the seed for the idea. And then the next steps were around building a business case to our CEO and then the board, and saying, hey, look, instead of acquiring a platform that's going to primarily do something similar to what our current tool is doing, but has all the same challenges, why don't we build it differently along the lines that Abraham just said? And we said, we have the expertise in-house. We have Abraham and a couple of really superb engineers, we said we could take that small group of 3 or 4 people, and then we could start to build it from scratch and deliver a product inside of 9-10 months. That's what we did.
That's great. So that brings up a lot of interesting thoughts. There's, even though with our previous episodes, as I mentioned, these were founders of companies as opposed to those who started a new product inside of their current employer, but there is still a certain amount of risk. Like you mentioned, you need to create a business case that gets presented to the board and the CEO. So I would assume there is still some risk involved with starting, only a product as opposed to a company. I was curious how you started to evaluate that risk and where it saw like the right decision, or at least worth the risk to try and build something like this tool.
Yeah, and so a lot of forethought went into building that business plan, and basically we had to not only convince ourselves that it was technologically viable, we also had to convince ourselves and the executive leadership and Justin, our CEO, and the board, that investment was going to yield, not only in terms of having a well product on time, but also over time it could show growth and success. And so Abraham and I worked together, flushing out the details of the business plan, making sure we knew how the product was going to be architected. We understood from Abraham and a lot of the brilliant ideas he had on how we could essentially create this new approach to load testing. We had to supplement that with guardrails to know that there would be a process that we could follow during the implementation, because Justin said that, here's the funding, here's a small team, now go build it. But we also had to make sure we had checkpoints with our executive leadership. We had the ability to show them the plan and the progress we were making. And we also had to keep track of the progress throughout from the time when we started till the time when we delivered, because, at every stage of any startup's evolution or a product's evolution, you come up with new challenges. So we had to make sure that those were solved in a way that still led us to the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I
Abraham,
would like to emphasize. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I would like to emphasize something that it's, in my opinion, very important. And it's, you may think that because this was done, let's say, Foster and within a big organization like SmartBear, by that time, it should be easier. And I already said, but the truth is, I would say it was actually much more complicated, because in general, and I had extra, call it bureaucracy. As he said, right? When you are doing your own business, you are just responsible for your acts. It's only yourself, the one that needs to be convinced. You can do a market research or not. Here we had to convince many other people too. Also, you were asking Noel about the risk, right? And I like to see the things other way around. The question is not what's the risk you're facing, what have been the risk of not doing it. So that's from an entrepreneurial spirit where you really need to think. It's not about failing, it's about not doing it. That's the real risky active. So when there's something when you have an idea, when you think that there's a problem that you see with your eyes that can be improved, I think the risk is not doing it. The risk is procrastinating or waiting for tomorrow or overthinking if it needs to be done or not. Go move yourself and try to do it. Success, it's waiting for you.
Right. And then here's another interesting point is that, to the point about risk and not doing it, at the time before we started, I had evaluated a bunch of companies, and they were at various sizes, and we had looked at a couple that were, relatively small, and we had built a hypothesis around how we would grow them. Mm-hmm. And, as we dug deeper and deeper into this idea of building it ourselves, we realized that, our hypothesis back then was we can do a lot better than this. And we have, and we can open up the aperture for this product in a way different than how some of the other smaller competitors are trying to do. And sure enough, over the past couple of years, we have, luckily for us, and not only had the support from the organization to push it through, but we've also shown in the marketplace that the product is also growing in a manner that's very commensurate with some of the best products we have at SmartBear. The other interesting part that Abraham was able to do, and this is entirely to him, testament to him, his abilities and his team, we were able to engineer the product with a very different approach than what we were used to. Back then, a lot of our products followed, an agile / waterfallish approach. But because we were a small team, we had to evolve ourselves to being a DevOps, NoOps, organization. So not only were we like doing bleeding edge technological stuff, not only did we have a really brand new architecture and a modern set of tools, we also came up with the belief, because both of us had done it in prior lives, that we could build it in a very different way, so that it could be a modern way of building the software and maintaining it. So that right now, even to this day, almost 2 years from the time it was released, it's a small group of individuals that maintain the product from the time it's conceived, from the time it's developed, from the time it's tested, deployed, and maintained. So it's like a DevOps, truly a DevOps, no ops model. And it's one of the few organizations inside of SmartBear that does that. And the reason I'm pointing it out is that oftentimes people don't realize that this is possible inside of large organizations, but I think it is. And I think, you just need the right leadership and the right group of people with the idea to be able to make this happen.
Those are both such fantastic answers. I mean, I wish I was actually writing notes down, because I'll go back and watch this for sure. I love the balance between the amount of planning that you detailed on, because sometimes you get a good idea and you're so convinced it's a great idea and it's going to take off, and how could it fail, that you lack some of that planning that makes sure it stays on track and achieves that growth that you have in your head of it getting to. And then Abraham, you kind of gave the other side of, you look at the risk of doing something, and sometimes even with all that planning, it could still look risky. But then, like you said, there's that other side of it of, well, what's the risk of not doing it? I just yesterday read an article. I had to pull it up while you started talking, and it's called "How to Waste Your Career One Comfortable Year at a Time," and it's all about that complacency of like, sure, you can live a life. It's really easy to live a life without any risk. You don't maybe get as high as you do or you don't climb as high as if you do take some chances and go into some unknown areas that you haven't done before, or that you don't know what the outcome is. You have an expectation and a hope of what it'll be, and it takes a lot of work to get there. But the risk of not doing something is a powerful decider sometimes.
Indeed.
So we talked about some of the success that it's had, and I've been lucky enough to be here to see some of that and to a relatively new tool, but I'm sure there've been some challenges along the way. So some other good advice for people looking to start a new product or a new company would be to maybe go into some of those challenges that popped up, and how you or the team around LoadNinja or SmartBear as a whole looked at solving those.
Hey, Ram, do you start with some of the challenges you had on the product and the technical side, and I can talk about some of the product market challenges we've also encountered and addressed?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the main challenges was in the middle of, let's say, the first stage of the project. One of the key colleagues that was working with us decided to move to a different project, a different company. And that creates a very, let's say, inflection point into the team. It had a lot of drama to how the project was moving forward. And the important point about this, it's not what happened, it's actually the moral. There are always things that are going to be wrong, always. It's a matter of, call it belief, call it faith into yourself and into the team. And that's, in my opinion, what really makes the things to always move forward and to move in a successful way. So every project I have been in my life that has been worthy has always had not only challenge, but really points where I was about to give up. I think that's the key point. And right now, after several stories, several successful stories, I always realize that when I arrive to that give up point, it's when I know I'm doing something really meaningful. And I know that immediately after that, maybe I should give up. Immediately after that, it's when the rewards start coming. So that's an important point. You will face a give up moment. Be happy. You are close to what you really want to be, where you want to be.
Yeah, and that's actually a very interesting point, because whether it is on the architectural side, whether it's on people and the team and the challenges with people leaving because their situations in life changed and they wanted something different, or in our ability to really bring a product to market that really has a great product market fit, regardless of which aspect you look at or dimension, there's always this element of a set of assumptions you walk into a situation with and something happening that you're not ready for. And what really is, you will find in yourselves, and I think we all have this, but we've never tapped into it, is the resilience to persevere through it and see what you can do to address it to make it even better, and you come out stronger on the other end. And so much like Abraham had challenges with the engineering side, with the people that we had to manage, We also had challenges in terms of the original approach we took in terms of what it was going to do and how we were solving it. And what we found out was that the load testing market was also changing even as we were coming up with a new product and a revolutionary approach. You know, a lot more folks who were non-technical were getting in, but we also realized that, that the marketplace was also shifting to accommodate this notion of self-serve or, you know, subscription-based thing, you know, products. And so we had to change and be, you know, quick on our feet to say, yes, the product is solving this great problem, but we also need to change the way we're allowing people to engage with us, give them models of you know, subscribing to the product that's different than the traditional ways people have done. And so over the course of the past, you know, 18 months or 24 months, we have evolved the way we have fit our product into the market so that we are recognizing the needs and the changing needs of the end users. And I think that's been probably the common theme across all of our evolution is we've been paying attention to the user, what is the problem they're solving, what are the unmet needs, and how can we put our product and our approach to solve that. And I think listening to your customer, listening to their challenges, and really working to solve that, if that continues to be your focus from day one and through the evolution of the product, I think you will see that, you know, you will be successful. And I think at every stage of your success, there'll be an inflection point when you may need to solve an additional problem or a variant of the old problem, and you just need to be prepared for that and solve it. And I think so long as you have, as Abraham said, that point when you really feel like, oh, you know, this is what, you know, you're going to give up, you just persevere through it and you'll find that you will hit success and you just don't give up.
Yeah, that's great. That reminds me of, again, of something else that came up just this week was there was a testing conference going on and a tester got up and explained that, you know, a good tester's mindset is what matters to you needs to matter to me. You know, and she was basically saying that it's, you know, it's not what she thinks is a bug or what she thinks might be a problem with it. If it's not a problem for you, it's not a problem for the users. It doesn't ultimately matter. It's really listening to the customer. Sometimes in a tester's case, that's the, you know, that's the business as opposed to like an end user. But always remembering whose, you know, challenges it is that you're trying to solve. It's not just your own. It's often, you know, some really important people.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
Can I add one more thing? Another interesting thing that we did for LoadNinja that we hadn't done as well for other products was we started to pay attention to how people were using the platform. We really dug into seeing, because we were a small group, we really, our success, our ability to make the product successful was really predicated on our ability to understand who the users were, how were they using it, and whether or not we were meeting those needs. And so even from the early days, even till now, you know, we pay particular attention to how end users are interacting with the platform. Where are they getting stuck? How do we do, you know, have hypotheses around what we can do to get them unstuck and see if that has results. So it's a matter of doing continuous experiments, a set of experiments, but doing them quickly so that you have the ability to learn from it and adjust, but do a number of them so that you're evolving to learn from your last set of experiments and the lessons learned.
That's great, as opposed to just thinking like, well, they're buying it or they subscribed to get, or they signed up for another year, they must like it. Actually looking at how they're using it within that purchase to make sure you can't make them like it even more, which is, well,
right,
the goal. That's great. Well, we really just have one last question. It's kind of a two-parter, and you both kind of already answered one part of it, but we'll see if you have any more to say. But the part one of this final question is what has been the most rewarding thing about your journey, either as entrepreneurs and or as product creators?
You start with this one, Anand?
Go ahead.
Okay.
You want me to go? I can go. I think the most rewarding part has been to see success with the team and the growth of the product and the validation from the marketplace. I know we're a small team, but the team is extremely focused, and we have you know, leaders to really help shape the product's destiny. That's really made it successful, and that's probably the most rewarding thing for us, for me, and I suspect for Abraham. Abraham, go ahead. Love to hear your perspective.
Yeah. In addition to Anand and this kind of notion about moving forward and never ever give up, as Churchill would say, I really want to highlight that in addition to arriving to a place or to having like a product there and the market recognition, which is great, it's the joy of the journey and who I had the opportunity to share, Anand and the rest of the team, what really make this worthy and enriching for me from a personal perspective. Further from the product, which is great, and the results we got, I think we really have the opportunity to work elbow with Anand and with the rest of our colleagues in LoadNinja has been really great.
I agree. I think that is absolutely not to be left as an understated point, is that it's not only the success, but it's also the fact that we were comrades. We were like working together side by side. And at the end of the day, you know, we when you succeed, it's a joint team effort. Absolutely. Great point.
And then part two, with the part that I was saying you've done such a great job of already, was do you have any other kind of, you know, advice for those who may be looking to launch their own product or found their own company? Is there anything that they should kind of keep in mind that you haven't already stated, or anything that you know now that you wish you'd known in your earlier days?
I can take this one first if you want. And in my case, it's not something I know now that I didn't know. It's some sort of a mantra. You can see that I am not a bodybuilder, or I'm just a nerd, right? But there's this sentence from Muhammad Ali that I really love and has guided my life always. And once someone asked him, hey, how many sit-ups do you do? And he answered, I don't know. I start counting only when it really hurts. So I think that's exactly a mantra that on tough times helps me a lot. I always remember, and helps and drives me. So that and embodying risk, face the risk. It's probably the two main advices I could give to anyone that thinks something can be improved. Try it. Yeah, and don't get defeated.
Yeah, I agree with Abraham. I think the most important part is don't wait. If you think you have an idea and you think the idea can make a difference, you should jump in with both feet and trust yourself that it's worth pursuing. And at the end of it, even if you don't succeed, you will have learned some very important lessons that you can reapply for the next adventure, and it will serve you very well in life. And so don't wait. It's never too late to get started, but don't wait.
That's great. That's a very fitting end, as this is our final episode of the Founder Series, as we saved this one for last, and we have some ideas for what to turn this show into as season 2, as we're calling it. So we should act on those and keep putting out this information that we think is really valuable for our viewers and listeners. So I want to thank you both so much for your time today, and to thank everybody else for joining us on this Founder Series journey that we've been on here in a crazy 2020. There's lots more great stuff out of SmartBear coming, including the next kind of evolution of this show. So Anand and Abraham, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Noel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Abraham. Cheers.
Bye.